Coral reefs are the most diverse ecosystems in the world. They are often called rainforests of the sea because of that. 25% of the ocean's fishes and other organisms rely on coral reefs for food and shelter. There are two types of corals: those that can make coral reefs, hermatypic, and those that do not, hermatypic. Hermatypic corals have a symbiotic relationship with photosynthetic algae called zooxanthellae, which live in their tissues. The relationship is mutualistic because the algae receives protection and the compounds it needs for photosynthesis, while the coral obtains the carbohydrates it needs as food and oxygen that the algae produce. Hermatypic corals do not have that relationship, but they take in plankton and organic matter that can live in deeper waters. Coral reefs are important not only for ocean organisms, but also for humans. 500 million people rely on coral reefs as a source of food, income, and protection. Issues and concerns for coral reefs rose from natural threats such as disease, predators, and storms, but they also are produced by people too, such as bad fishing practices, pollution, and climate change that raise ocean temperatures and cause ocean acidification. According to the article Corals Fight Back, it was in the early 1980s that when the El Nino climate phenomenon happened, which caused an aquatic heat wave that led to a mass bleaching of more than 90% corals. El Nino events occurred once more in the late 1990s and in 2015 or 2016, but scientists found that they weren't as bad as before. They realized that corals were discovering ways to adapt to rising temperatures. Some corals change the algae that inhabits them to another that is heat resistant, like the Pteridinium glyni. Then other corals use their rows of cilia or tiny hairs to fan away excess harmful oxygen released by stressed out algae. Scientists hope to use these adaptations to preserve coral reefs.
Coral reefs have the highest biodiversity out of any ecosystem. They provide protection and food not only for marine organisms but also for people. Over 500 million people rely on coral reefs, and a good percentage are almost entirely reliant on them to provide for their families. Areas with coral reefs provide food and in turn provide jobs for the locals. Depending on the area, it can also boost tourism, which then helps the economy. Over 50% of coral reefs have been lost, and it is estimated that the world will lose 70% of all coral reefs by 2030. That's only 5 years away. Not only that, but about 77% of all coral reefs suffer from bleaching. Coral bleaching occurs with the symbiotic algae that lives inside the coral leaves. This results in weakened coral and slow growth. Coral reefs are found in Indonesia, Australia, the Philippines, Fiji, and many more places. And although they don't make up a large percentage of the ocean environment, they are an essential part of it. Coral reefs are habitats for about 25% of marine life in the world. Coral reefs are used as spawning and nursing grounds. With the destruction of coral reefs, millions of people will lose their main source of income and be unable to feed themselves. The negative impact on coral reefs would affect the fishing industry, tourism, local businesses, the local economy, and even more. The loss of coral reefs would be largely felt by the ocean environment. The state of a coral reef is usually an indicator of how an ocean environment is doing. Without coral reefs, the entire ecosystem is in danger.
Humans and their activities are the most significant and tend to be the greatest factor of environmental destruction and habitat loss. It's no exception when talking about coral. Years and years of industrialization and agriculture have sped up the effects of global warming, and coral is taking great effect by that. Corals are very sensitive invertebrates, and the rising water temperatures and rising salinity levels put the coral under great stress. The thermal stress, in turn, leads to coral bleaching. With increased effects of global warming, storms and weather phenomena like El Nino occur stronger and more frequently. El Nino brought warmer waters, and with the warmer waters, it brought an onslaught of worldwide coral bleachings. It's an ongoing cycle with El Nino. As the 90s rolled in, so did another mass bleaching. In the 2010s, another mass bleaching occurred and was documented for the third major bleaching. In recent years, there was surveillance that documented the fourth worldwide bleaching in 2023. Along global warming, land-based runoffs also kill coral. As a result from dredging, agricultural and deforestation activities alongside many others, the runoff that is produced pollutes the ocean and essentially smothers the coral. Stunting skeleton growth and depriving coral of sunlight are also effects of pollution. Some fishing practices are also causing more harm to coral, such as blast fishing, which uses explosives to get fish to come out of their hiding holes, but it also blasts off coral populations as well. Cyanide fishing, where fishers dump cyanide into the ocean to paralyze the fish, also poison maturing polyps and developing polyps. Net debris and boat anchors also crush and rip off coral colonies.
What do you think the importance of coral reefs are?
I think they're pretty important. They're pretty colorful, and I think we should preserve them because I don't know how many there are in the world, but they look pretty cool.
What benefits do you think coral reefs provide for ocean organisms and humans?
I'm assuming they provide they're an environment for fishes, for organisms, marine life, and I think I'm pretty sure they're pretty important for the ecosystem. So yeah, they should be saved.
What problems do you think coral reefs face?
Probably habitat destruction, pretty sure. Because that's happening with land, so I'm assuming it's happening in the oceans as well, resorts and stuff. But yeah.
Is there any other aspect about coral reefs that you would like to learn more about?
How big they are probably, and how to preserve them. Yeah, I think that'd be nice.
I'm going to be asking you questions about coral reefs, okay?
Okay.
What are some factors that contribute to the destruction of coral reefs and how?
One of the examples is pollution, because some of the waste may include harmful chemicals that will hurt the reefs in the long run. And another example is climate change, because climate change can affect the waters by heating them up and will hurt the coral reefs.
Why are coral reefs important to the ocean environment?
They're important to the ocean environment because they provide habitat for the organisms living there and shelter from predators.
What or who do you think is impacted by the destruction of coral reefs and why?
The things that are affected by them are the fishermen in the area that are fishing, the fishes that are slowly decreasing in population due to their habitats being destructed, and the fishes that habitats are being destructed.
What do you think should be done to help or prevent the destruction of coral reefs?
What can be done is to lower your trash, especially if you're on the beach, you just throw it away so it doesn't end up in the ocean, and to take care of the beaches and the environment around them.
Okay, thank you.
What's your general understanding about the destruction of coral?
My general understanding of the destruction of the coral reef. Some is contamination, changing temperature in water. Another one is tourism, so people will touch the corals and the oils and so on. Damage the external layer, so they start turning from bright and colorful to all bleached out, white, eventually they die.
Okay, and then my next question is, in what ways do you think that coral is tied to your everyday life?
I think, particularly in coastal areas, coral reefs are very important to mitigate the impact of the water on the coast, mitigate the impact of the water on the beaches, so there is no erosion. And most importantly, they serve as a habitats for different species of fish and other life in the water. So as the coral dies, it's going to be a less fish and less diversity in that particular area.
In what ways do you think that you can do to protect the coral reefs?
I will say cutting consumption of plastics, making sure that we live a greener life, if you will. I think part of the issue with the waters warming up, I think it has an impact on the coral. It's due to global warming, or carbon dioxide output, monoxide output, basic contamination of the water. And if we choose to go into the water and look at corals, obviously try not to touch anything, just look, don't touch.
And then my last question would be, what do you know about the effects of pollution to coral?
I would say very similar to what I said before. Like, you mean pollution, air pollution, or water pollution?
Like water pollution, like runoff from like farmlands and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I mean all that could have a chemical imbalance within the water and damage the habitat. And there are obviously some countries and in some regions where there is a lot of runoff into the ocean from factories, whether it's chemical waste from processing or sewer that is dumped straight into the waters. That has an impact on the coral and marine life.
Got it. Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you.
Likewise, how close was I to my answer?
You should try it. Without as many diverse hotspots such as the coral reefs, many species would likely become a problem. If not, they would cease to exist. I feel strongly that people should be educated on matters such as coral reefs because sooner or later it will directly affect the world, and future generations will not be able to explore the colorful habitats that are the coral reefs, and instead they will be exploring wastelands.
Coral reefs are natural wonders that aren't appreciated enough. They are an important part of the ocean and a part of people's daily lives. It is not right to let the destruction of coral reefs happen. And yet I feel like countless people don't realize just how necessary the coral reefs are. I want people to learn that these natural wonders aren't just here for our enjoyment, but because the ocean actually needs them. That they aren't plants but actual living creatures who need our help. They were here hundreds of years before us, and yet we will see their demise by our own doing. I have learned more about coral reefs as a result of this project, and I would like to be able to see a coral reef one day. I've always thought they were fascinating, and it is frustrating to learn that about the carelessness of the human population. I don't just mean like the common folk, but the people in power who believe that it is their right to take as much as they want from countless environments and not care who or what is affected by their decisions. However, in the meantime, I will continue to try and lessen the impact I have on the environment whenever I can.
I think coral reefs are important because I see them as a community that help each other and also every other organism, whether in the ocean or inland. The fact that they provide so much for everyone is what personally impacted me, and I think if other people realize that too, we can view the world differently and also see the importance of coral reefs.